Detach sequence complete. Observe speed restrictions when passing through the airlock.
Can you hear me now? Oh, that's better. Hello, everybody. I think the desktop audio seems to have gone for some reason. I don't know why. This is really strange today. We're having so many weird little issues. Like the desktop sound was all there and now it's just gone. Music, which doesn't take up much space and time in the processor, won't play. Fingers crossed it will get better from here on in though. But yeah, it's kind of bizarre when I talk for about 5 minutes and no one can hear a damn thing. But anyway, I'll start again. Hello and welcome everyone to this 12-hour live stream for raising money for Ukraine, particularly the British Red Cross appeal. Obviously, the Red Cross is an international body that will distribute the money to the appropriate countries. I think this is for refugees of Ukraine generally and in Ukraine itself. So obviously, some of the money I'm sure will end up going to sort of Ukrainian refugees in places like Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and other sort of bordering states that they've fled to. Obviously, we've all sort of seen this in the news, and you know, there's not really that much to be said about it on detail here that isn't already being said in real life. But I'll try to make this sort of as jolly a stream as possible. But if you wish to donate, please go to the about of this channel, and there should be a button there for the Red Cross, and you click on that, and it should take you through to the page where you can make a donation. I'll leave it up for some time after the stream is actually over, for like a couple of days, so people can still donate if they wish to do that. But anyway, welcome not just to this live stream and my channel. I am Commander Yannick, and we are in the familiar system to a lot of you who play Elite Dangerous of 154, or at least those of you who know the Elite lore. For those of you who have never really seen Elite before or know much about it, it is a wonderful, wonderful sort of simulation. Possibly the biggest play area of any game or simulation that's available. Literally the whole of the Milky Way galaxy. 400 billion star systems all simulated. This is basically ASMR, says Charlotte. That's an interesting way of putting it. I'm actually trying to get the desktop sound back for this as well. You should actually hear the game sound in the background, not just my voice. Is anyone actually getting the game sound at all? Because it should be there in the background. But according to my meters, it isn't actually there for reasons unknown. If you can hear me okay, I suppose that's a good start. Oh, dearie me. But yes. Now, as I say, here we are, Ross 154. This was the starter system, or one of the starter systems, I should say, of the second iteration of Elite, Elite 2 Frontier. Funnily enough, the very game that Frontier Developments is actually named after. And it was the beginning of my personal journey in Elite when I was about 13. Someone gives away my age, but there you go. But no, it's the Elite series of games are of course legendary, and the first Elite was the first actual 3D game I think available commercially. It was genuinely sort of a fantastic sort of first step into that sort of 3D world, where it's now sort of commonplace. But obviously, this is Elite. This is the fourth iteration of Elite, and yeah, it's come on a long way, I will say, from those sort of early ones. I think most of the other three versions of Elite were all sort of revolutionary in their own way. I think when Elite Dangerous first came out, it was too. Maybe not so much now. It does need an overhaul, or maybe another sort of sequel, possibly, but you know, we shall see. I'm coming to park myself here in orbit of the planet Merlin in Ross 154, which was the starting point of that second Elite game, and has, because of that, has some slight significance for me within the sort of elite lore here. We have world of Merlin, which is an Earth-like world in orbit of the gas giant called Asta, which is an unusual name, but there you have it. Yeah, let's click on Merlin. Let's actually initiate Super Cruise to orbit so that we can actually go into a sort of stabilized orbit of the planet. Yeah, let's have a look. See if I can actually get the view to change and actually comply for once in its life. Oh, dearie me. Yeah, as always, the in-system messages are quite funny, even though they're just usually on repeat. I can actually get the damn thing to work properly. It might help. I try to change the view, but it's not budging for some reason. For God's sake. Yeah, as always, it's typical sort of almost not curse of the streamer, but yeah, misfortune of the streamer. Certainly, everything works in when you try it out before. When it actually comes to the day, nothing is working as planned, which is not fun. We've entered orbit anyway, so I'm trying to get a better view somewhere else just by looking around. No, I can't, which is a pain in the backside. I think I'll get out of orbit by that point because we can't actually see what I wanted us to see. Yeah. I'll get into a sort of slower manual orbit of the place. But yeah, this is an Earth-like world. It's supposed to be a sort of frozen water world or ice world. Ah, the sunrise is cool. Look at that. Actually, I'm going to stop here and drop out of Super Cruise just so that we can watch the sunrise over this beautiful world. Haha. Yeah, this is a cool place to start. I'll go to external view. And this, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is the Cobra Mark IV, the spacecraft that I'm flying. Well, you tend to get people in the who were early adapters of the game, early players. You have the Cobra Mark IV. It's one of those things that it was originally like an early sort of bonus, but probably should have been made for like mass use by now. But oh, if you want to donate, also you can see on the right hand side of the screen, there's the QR code. Now, if you use your phone to click on that, you get a link through to the site for Just Giving where you can donate as well. So yeah, donate in the about or also the QR code. They're the easiest ways. But yeah, see if I can actually get the game background sort of the sounds going. But that's a pretty glorious view, I think. I mean, for this 12 hours, because we've got a lot of time, I am going to bring in various people, guests. We may be linking up with Lave Radio later on in the day, but yeah, we'll see about that when the time comes. Probably take a tour of a lot of the bubble, which is the main area that humanity hasn't inhabited in this particular universe, which is cool. There's a lot of stuff going on. Really see some abandoned places, see some cool natural formations, canyons, mountains, all kinds of nice stuff, really. Yeah. See if I can quickly solve the mystery of the sound while I'm still here, but how's the video coming through for everybody? Is it actually alright, frame rate wise? Because that was obviously my sort of biggest concern. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, it should be coming through. I don't know why it isn't. It's very strange. See if I can fix it during the breaks later on, but otherwise it should be coming through. But yeah, one of the most wonderful thing about Elite is it has a wonderful community, but in itself, views like this and all around the galaxy. See the not Horse Nebula, sorry, the Eye of Barnard's Loop, or the Magellanic Clouds. This is like the general sort of the galaxy from the inside. And upwards, yeah, we see the sort of local stars, and it does change as you move through the galaxy. Bit by bit, the whole thing sort of unfolds in a sort of wonderful kind of revelation, I suppose. Bit by bit, piece by piece, you see the galaxy change as you move through it, like because you change perspective, the higher or lower you go, or the further you go from the core, the closer you go into it, etc. The star density changes, the brightness changes. There's so many sort of wonderful things. Yeah. Okay. Can anyone hear the background of the game now? Because I don't think I'm getting it through either, which is somewhat odd. Yeah, I don't get that either. It's all rather weird. This is the thing about doing a stream. You could restart, which I may end up having to do, but not the stream, but the game itself. It's just annoying if you have to do that. Then again, sometimes you have to restart the stream, which is also a pain in the backside. It's not really something you want to do if you can possibly avoid it. But yeah. Thanks for everybody who's watching at the moment. Anyone who's just joined us, welcome. I'm Commander Yannick, and this is the 12-hour charity stream for Ukraine. And a very warm welcome to you all. We are in Elite Dangerous at Ross154, and sort of checking out the sort of general ambience as I desperately try to actually find out where the hell the game sound has gone. But if I can't, it's not a complete disaster if we don't have it. I just would have preferred to have had it, because, it's still cool. It's there in the background. Okay. Let's return to the cockpit and continue orbiting around the place. There's little differences as well. The way they've got the light modelled as well. You see the rays coming off it. It's really, really good. Really quite convincing. That's interesting, Bad Cops. Once I looked at the alternate starting point Ross laser system. Yeah, that's why I was saying that's always one of the starting points. I think the default start point was Ross 154, the easiest one. The alternate was Lave, you're right. I think it's because the first game started in Lave. That was a harder starting point because you started with a Cobra Mark III, but without any kind of autopilot. Now, in Elite Dangerous, you don't need autopilot to get around and do stuff. In Elite 2, you definitely needed an autopilot. Otherwise, it was insanely hard to navigate. You needed so many inputs and corrections to get anywhere. It was super hard work to do even the most basic of travel. But yeah, I think some people didn't realise that and gave up early on Frontier Elite 2. Because they didn't know you needed an autopilot to fly around. They just assumed it was like Elite 1, and it would be fine, but it wasn't. Aha, here we are. The beautiful light shining off the planet. You see the atmosphere and everything. Now, we can't unfortunately land on these kind of worlds in Elite. Not yet, anyway, but can land on other worlds, lots of other worlds, but just not the Earth-like ones and a couple of other atmospheric ones. In the Odyssey DLC, you can land on some light atmospheric worlds, but we're not in Odyssey right now. See if there's anyone I know hanging around. I don't think so. Looks like an NPC. Probably another NPC, yeah. It's good to scan sometimes, so you never know who's around. Yeah, System Authority, that's not going to be anybody, is it? They've all disappeared anyway. Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, we continue to look over to the side. Actually, you can see like the Earth-like world in the off to the right. It's cool though. But no, you're right, Bad Cops. It's Frontier Elite 2. It looks. I mean, this looks very different to the Elite 2 portrayal of the world of Merlin, because in that way it's kind of white because it's supposed to be an ice world, but it looks like, well, more like the Earth, as in, it has polar caps, but it also, has mostly like oceans with bits of green here and there, That's true. But we'll do plenty of that today anyway, landing on different worlds and seeing just different bits and pieces. But I thought it best to start off somewhere like important to the lore of the game, and somewhere that has sort of beauty of its own. But yeah, in the second place we're going to start in our journey here outside of Ross 154 will be Sol, our own solar system, and that's mapped in a very nice way. It's done in a very convincing kind of way. It had to be, because it's our solar system, for crying out loud. It's not that in real life we know the best and people are always going to sort of judge the game on, but that's just the way of it, really. Still. Right, fiddle with my settings again. Yeah, if the frame rate's okay, I suppose that's the main thing. Yeah, that seems okay. Right, let's keep cracking onwards. Actually, let's look at the system map just so we get some idea of where we are and what we're doing. Okay, right, this is a representation of the Ross 154 star system. Obviously, we have the gas giant of Asta, class 2. See who it's mapped by. Don't know them, but yeah, some time ago. Obviously, this is the starport, the orbital station. Orbiting around the gas giant, funnily enough. Berkeley City, and then the world of Merlin itself. The zoom in a bit closer to the Earth-like world. It's that little thing that I have a ship parked at that station, so leave that for now. These other things here are fleet carriers. They're like the biggest spacecraft a player can own within the league. Basically, mobile stations, essentially. They have most, if not all, the services of a regular orbital station, one that's actually hardwired into the game, as it were, a permanent fixture. But yeah, I'm just clicking on bodies that we can land on if we want to. Actually, we may do that in a minute, but just for like random interest. Now, this is interesting. This is 1546. Hasn't got a name, but most of them don't, to be honest. Ice world, water ice. Doesn't have an atmosphere though. Basically, say no volcanism, no atmosphere, mostly ice and rock. Interesting orbital details, and we have a couple of human settlements. As you go closer, you can also see the larger craters and also these large canyons near where my cursor is. And so when you crisscross all these ice worlds, they can be very beautiful. I mean, yeah, ice worlds are some of the most interesting places, I think, in the Elite universe. Often some of the prettiest, that's why. They're 10 a penny, but the good ones are really good. And ones have amazing canyons and like spectacular mountains, which will be something we'll be checking out a bit later on. This is a rocky planet. A little bit of a different look, unsurprisingly. Very big craters on it. Probably go racing in some craters as well today, I think. Yeah, that's a good point. We'll be doing some mountain climbing doing some racing, some general sort of checking things out, exploring. You can see these raised bits. The mountains don't show very well on this sort of map, but it's at a distance. Scroll down a bit on the left-hand side, you can see what the planet is made of. Its general composition, materials you can find on its surface. These planet materials at the bottom here are kind of more for engineering purposes. It says it's also tidally locked, which means that that face of the planet is always facing the star, and it won't change. Which would obviously change if they've got perpetual dark and perpetual light on either side of the planet. Would look probably quite different after, millions of years doing that. But it is intriguing. I mean, to be fair, at least one of the most intriguing games out there. Gone back into Super Cruise, pretty much left the star system, but we're not actually gone anywhere yet. We are going to go to the Sol system next, our home of humanity. Yay! Right, let's have a quick look before we actually jump. How's everyone doing out there? Hope you're having a good day. What are you all up to? Right, this is an interesting one, because this is Jupiter. Obviously, Jupiter does have its own ring system. And the various worlds of it, Io, Europa, Ganymede, etc. These are, not every single small moon is covered here, but the larger ones definitely are. And Columbus. I was going to say, in Red Dwarf, I'm pretty sure that Arnold Judas Rimmer is actually from Io. He grew up there, and didn't he go to a school called Io House as well? Pretty sure most Red Dwarf fans already know that, but it's a good one. This little purple thing is quite interesting, because this starport here actually has an engineer being a sort of, specialist who can do very sort of custom jobs on your components, making them sort of much better and getting sort of weird and interesting effects too. Yeah, it's interesting shading on this one. A sort of blue, rocky ice kind of colour. Yeah. Iapetus. But yeah, let's jump to the Sol system. It's amazing. I'm going, like, as you can see at the bottom, like 400 times the speed of light, but I'm still turning really, really quickly. Yeah, probably not that realistic, but it's intriguing. Oh yeah, we've got to select the thing to jump. Too busy talking and not paying enough attention where I'm flying. Many people have crashed horribly that way. Right, let's go to the Sol system. It's quite nearby. I'm right at the heart of the bubble here. The bubble of humanity. Obviously, there's all kinds of different corporation-owned systems. Systems owned by major powers. Major powers that are being, the Alliance, Federation, and the Empire. Yeah. So I think all of them are like vaguely modelled on real-world civilizations, like Federation on the United States of America. The Empire vaguely on the Roman Empire, which is an interesting choice. And the Alliance somewhat like on the European Union, like some more sort of federation of different states in a sort of loosely held bond that way for sort of mutual aid and trade and protection and what have you. But yeah, it's not a precise analogy. Okay, right, let's pick a place to go. I think Jupiter may be the first one on the list, but there's lots of stuff in the Sol system, as you can tell here. Actually, let's start with the Earth. Might be the best place of all, because, it's our home planet. It's quite nicely sort of mapped here, I think. Nicely put together. It's kind of unique in that regard, because all the other Earth-likes in the game are usually just, randomly generated RNG kind of places. But the RNG on landable bodies can throw up some very interesting stuff sometimes. At least in Horizons, anyway. I won't get into Horizon Odyssey at the moment because that's a whole different question for a different time. But I think most people who own Elite own Horizons, which is like the first major sort of DLC. And yeah, most of the sort of landable worlds and the sort of ones that are all ones without an atmosphere basically, but there's lots of variation in those, so they're pretty cool. Yeah, as we approach the Earth, you can see the moon here, off to one side. It's generally astronomically pretty accurate. Most of it. I mean, I will give definite plaudits to Frontier for trying to make the astronomy as realistic as possible. Here we are approaching the Earth. Speed it up a little bit. Yeah, see the space station there of Abraham Lincoln. There's 3 in orbit of the Earth. Kuling Zhao and Mikhail Gorbachev as well. So I refer to it as a Muk Gorbachev, but I wouldn't put it that far. Right, cool. Yeah, some of these tourist beacons as well in orbit of Earth. Actually, maybe I'll stop off the ancient history one. Yeah. Just to give you some idea as well. But yeah, it's accurately mapped, or at least supposedly a sort of post-World War III version of the Earth. It's probably best not to think too much about possible World War III right now, but that's what it is, and that's where we are. Yeah, these tourist beacons are usually these little sort of devices floating in space somewhere that you can sort of find information from, whether it be historical or touristy related, or sometimes even a warning actually, or a piece of a puzzle. Scanning the tourist beacon. Okay, right, it should be scanned now. Seeing all the cruise ship adverts here. This is your captain. They always say they're the best 1%. Every single one of them says that. It's just a typical message. Anyway, here we are. Ancient history. Mankind's first ventures into space were tentative and gradual. Yeah, that bit about saying space flights beyond the moon is quite reasonable. Yeah, it's an interesting possibility, and like, pardon me a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a possibility, obviously, coming real world space exploration. About, obviously, we want to land on Mars in the foreseeable future and sort of colonize the moon. And probably Mars too, eventually. Okay, yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting one because this is built in the sort of within the elite lore that the World War III happened and obviously remodeled certain bits of the planet, but human life wasn't extinguished, and just the planet was environmentally damaged. And I assume that's one of the things that, according to the lore, helped sort of spur further space exploration. Actually, let's get closer to the beacon itself because it's a small little thing floating in space. You say it's like about 1 kilometer away. Hope you're getting this okay. The frame rate seems to be pretty good right now, so I'm crossing my fingers. It'll keep that way. Here we are. Let's crash into it now. But there it is. Yeah, lots of beacons. Like there are tourist beacons actually on the surface of certain worlds too. But yeah, let's get a quick look at it. You can see me old ship a bit better here. Yeah. The Mark IV is not the most popular spacecraft. One of those things that becomes so much better, disproportionately so, once you start engineering it, upgrading it. The basic one, it seems fairly ordinary, but it has hidden depths in its design. There's a lot of people that's kind of heresy that the Cobra Mark II is automatically better. It's like, well, they're both good, you know, I like them both. But anyway, here we are. Yeah, you see the old beacon floating in space, tourist beacon. Yeah, I mean, it's not small, but compared to most spacecraft it is. I mean, the Cobra's not the biggest of spacecraft. It's fairly small in its dimensions. Zoom in a bit closer to the Cobra. So you can see the pilot there just about, i.e. me, on the right hand side of the cockpit. It gives you some sense of scale. I mean, these spacecraft aren't tiny, but they're not really huge either, especially by the standards of, or most ones you can get in the game anyway, by the standards of like Star Trek or something. Especially not by Star Wars standard. By Star Wars standard, these are all very small spacecraft, you know. But the capital ships in this are quite large. That's kind of more similar to like Star Wars sort of scale. You know, the ship was many, many kilometers in length. That's cool though. Let's have a quick look at the Earth while we're here. This puts us in a sort of interesting orbit. Now, so I thought, yeah, we're looking down at Japan and East Asia and Korea and China up there. You can see the Philippines at the bottom, Vietnam at the sort of bottom left of the screen, and towards the top now we have Russia, and then to the left of that Mongolia, and so on and so forth. But it's pretty good, I think. It's a pretty decent representation of our planet. But as President Kennedy once famously said, one of the main things we have in common is that we all share this small planet, which is ever true and ever more obvious now than it probably ever has been, due to the internet and just modern communication. Generally, people, what happens to people on one side of the world affects people on the other, and even if sometimes it is only in an emotional sense, there's more of a sense of people being connected with each other, and it's much harder to hide things these days, especially really, really bad things. But that's our beautiful planet, yeah. So you can get a good shot with it, and the beacon, and the spacecraft. Every now and then you see the flashes of the cruise ships that are dropping in and out. Yeah, I'm kind of upside down compared to this. Compared to like the usual Atlas view anyway of the Earth. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It gives more of a sense of sort of perspective. That's always the thing about orbit though, isn't it? Even though it's not really hanging there, it kind of does often look like it's just hanging there in space. Sometimes, I mean, I'm not the only one who does this, who plays Elite, but sometimes you can sort of sit in orbit of a planet or a ring field, or sitting on a world somewhere, and just look out at the beauty of it, the stars, because it's fairly realistic looking, especially the way that space is depicted. I mean, maybe space technically should be slightly darker, but it's sort of ultimately nitpicking, really. And it's extremely beautiful game. I mean, yeah, considering that the core code of this was done, what, 2012, 2014 kind of era, you know, it's remarkably good. Yes, indeed. Right. Had a good look at it. We'll check out some more places. See if there's anyone nearby, because sometimes you get commanders dropping in, but none so far. It's now like the boost sound. You can't hear that on it, which is a shame, you know. Yeah, I think I might have to restart the game and see what happens at some point, because I don't know where the sound went. It was fine earlier. Ah, famous last words of the streamer. It was fine earlier. Oh wow. And it was fine earlier. That's the thing. Yeah. Take a more broader perspective for a second upon the galaxy. Actually, no, let's just stick to this particular star system to start with. Right, let's have a quick tour of different places. Go to the moon, and then some of the other planets, and Mars. The moon isn't as exciting as I think everyone knows what the moon looks like, but it's still cool though. It's still nice that you can kind of fly between it, all these different bodies in the game. Anyone who's just joined us, welcome. I am Commander Yannick, and welcome to this 12-hour charity live stream, which are benefiting Red Cross appeal for Ukraine. Right, yeah, the moon, obviously. I think for a real world spaceflight, it's been an amazing natural thing. It didn't just absorb, like, you know, asteroids and meteoroids of impact and kept them away from the Earth to some degree, as Jupiter does. But the moon is just, like, quite convenient for our early space exploration. If we hadn't had a moon, it was like, would we have been at Mars by now? Maybe not, but, you know, with enough resources, maybe we could have been on Mars anyway by this point if we kept up like the space race era kind of expenditures, but unfortunately that never happened, and we should return to the moon very soon with Artemis, but we'll see. But yeah, the moon itself is always beautiful, but it's quite amazing when you think about it that human beings have actually landed on the surface of this alien world, really, because I mean, sometimes in certain angles it does look a bit like a sort of grey place on the Earth, but it really is an alien environment. Now, I'm not sure exactly how accurate comparatively this is of the moon. It's not a bad one. I think it is a fair representation. But for some reason, it's one of the only sort of non-atmospheric rocky worlds that's not landable. I'm not ever quite sure why Frontier never got around to doing. They said that they were going to do this, but they never did, which is it's sad, really. I think it would have been a wonderful thing, especially for like when the Apollo 11 anniversary was going on. Things like that, really. I mean, maybe there's technicalities that I'm not aware of, but yeah, it would have been nice. I think most people would agree with that. It would have been a fun thing to have. Yeah, sort of pretending Apollo 8 going around the moon. Apollo 8, of course, being the first people to ever orbit the moon. First people to ever see another world close up, actually. If by close up you mean orbiting it, but I mean, their view would have been pretty similar to this. But it's an interesting place nonetheless. Yeah, there's definitely all kind of moments to go out and have fun on these airless worlds, atmosphericless worlds. It's all good though. It's all good. Right, onward we go with the show. Next is Mars, according to Elite Lore, the first terraformed world. Now, because it's terraformed, it's slightly different to the Mars that we know and love in real life. It's a bit less orange, but you'll see that in a moment. How's it going out there, everybody? Welcome if you just joined us. I'm Commander Yannick. and this is the 12-hour charity live stream for Ukraine. Yeah, their frame rate looks pretty good right now. I'm quite happy with that. I was worrying before that because the sound wasn't working, that this wasn't going to work either, but it seems to be fine. Okay. While we're still cruising Super Cruiser, take this home to fiddle around with some of the sound settings again to see what the earth is going on here. Yeah, it's glorious how the stars are sort of modelled as well, with all the rays coming off it. I know there's a technical name for that, but I can't remember what it is. Ah, dearie me. Yeah, I suppose this is the dream of people since they first looked up at the sky to not just land on the moon or see but the other planets as well. Once people realised what they actually were, because obviously the most ancient peoples thought that they were gods or spirits that inhabited the heavens. Eventually, people sort of worked out that no, they were worlds different to our own, but worlds nonetheless. Places that I suppose we can now go. I mean, we could technically go to the moon now. It's just a matter of the practicality of getting everything organised, isn't it? But humanity has been to the moon, and that's the one thing that, in one way, sci-fi has actually come true. The only time in terms of people landing on another world, but it still counts. It very much counts. Yeah. Sometimes I like to reorient my spacecraft for the different orbital planes of these places. Yeah, here we go. Closer to Mars now. Second terraforming attempt. Non-human relic. Oh, that was a good point. The non-human relic bit. There was allegedly in Elite Lore some kind of alien device or technology. The details of it are somewhat hazy, but apparently this was found on Mars, I think, sometime during the terraforming process. It would be interesting, but said civilization has never really been identified. Even with the Elite Lore, it's just remained a mystery. Was it native to Mars? Did it come from somewhere else? You find alien technology, it does actually ask so many questions. Maybe questions that you might not be able to answer. Yeah, actually, let's drop out here. That might be a good place. Yeah, it's like in some ways similar to Earth, but in some ways very different. As you can see, the sort of reddish foundation to Mars, but the atmosphere has been added later. And then you've got the bits that are very much like the Earth, the oceans, coastlines, the sort of greenification of the place. Still beautiful, but sort of in a different way. Let's go to external view. Cool. That's a nice look. That's a good shot, actually. I might take one of those myself in a minute. Yeah, that's cool. It's sort of beautiful view of a beautiful place. It looks slightly surreal in some ways, like the clash of the orange with the more sort of earth tones, you know, and the water as well. It is interesting, very interesting. But yeah, it's kind of unique in terms of look compared to other Earth-like worlds in Elite, because this one again, like Earth within the solar system, has been sort of custom made to be a one-off. Fortunately, it isn't landable either. They say none of the Earth-like worlds are in Elite, which is unfortunate, but yeah, hopefully coming soon, TM, as we often joke. Still, we continue, we carry on. Let me see. Okay, can you still hear me now? Hopefully you can. Just let me know if the sound drops out again. But yeah, I'm trying to revive it by whatever means possible. Ah, dearie me. It should be fairly straightforward, you would think, but apparently not. Right, cool. Let's be on our merry way once more. And Commander Yannick's tour of the solar system. Cool, here we go. Yeah, I think Jupiter is the next on our list of places to see. Oh, look, it's interesting. You see the little sort of blue arcs over, like that shows that they're landable. But then this little red one over here is unusual because it is a landable, but it has a permit lock on it, which is very, very odd. Because there aren't many, if any, other worlds in the whole of Elite that are like this. Maybe it's for future content. Maybe there's something special about it. But for one reason or the other, Triton in orbit of Jupiter, sorry, orbit of Neptune, is a world that is not landable, even though it should be. But that's just one of those things, I suppose. No any official explanation as to why. I suppose we have to make educated guesses, but yeah, future content would seem the obvious point. I would hope. Right, okay, let's get ready to roll. Cool. Did a little bit of boosting here, but you can't even hear the boost. That's the shame. And the thing is, it's kind of weird because I actually can't hear the desktop noise for the game either. It's very odd. Yeah, it's hard to understand. It really is. Ah, dearie me. Right, no, it still hasn't improved it, has it? It's still no background noise. Suppose it's not key, is it? It's just nice if we can get it. Yeah, we continue a wonderful cruise. Oh, you've got it back. Yay. Well, that's fantastic. Excellent. Finally. It's quite funny actually how many school-age kids want to be streamers or YouTubers. It ain't as easy as it looks. I think YouTubing in some ways a bit less high pressure because you have time to edit. Even if you do